email you my deck now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, and the main difference here with Teams as well is that you won't actually see the audience. You do have the ability to see the other speakers, but this is very much a presentation style. We do have a question and answer function and a chat for this meeting, but for this meeting, they are not going to be able to actually talk and we will not be able to see them.
That's good.
So Krista, each presenter has a unique different link, or all 4 people can access, or 4 or 5 presenter can access same link. So because still 2 people are not on there. One is Apukutan and another is a Brandon. They must be struggling with the link, I guess. So
can you just emailed both of them their unique links again. Do we have a phone number we could call? That might be easier at this point.
I don't have, might be, can you just give me that link on WhatsApp? Yeah. Daryl, do you have the number of Brandon? Can you get in touch with him?
Yeah, he just called me.
So is he struggling to join, or how is that like?
No, the last text I got from him says he's got it.
He might be in the audience, which means he would be able to hear us right now, but he would not be able to present.
So
okay.
Can you give him some?
Yeah, I misread because I'm looking at the email you sent for the read ahead meeting, and so
can you send to Appan also, Krista? Send Appan once again, Appan, Brandon and Apukutan, 3 people. Individually, yeah. Can you send them to Apukutan? Send them.
Okay, wonderful. We have our audience in front of us, guys. So so we're just gonna give a few minutes to let people trickle in. Please know you are at the right place. This is the IAICC virtual event. We have some wonderful presenters and speakers that are coming up. So we're gonna give the first 5 minutes for people to come in. So grab a cup of water, grab your supper, whatever you need. We'll be right with you.
Yeah, you're able to hear. You joined. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I'll tell you what. Hey, Krista.
Yes, sir.
Krista. Dr. Kutan joined, I think. Do you see him? He's not an organizer, I think. Can you make him an organizer?
Yes. Say that name one more time, please.
Dr. Kutan. It says Appu Kutan. Do you see him?
Yes, he's a guest speaker. I can send him his link right now.
No, he already joined. Okay, I mean, it took me forever to get him to join there because he's having some Teams problems. Can you make him a presenter? Do you see him?
I do not, sir.
Yeah, because I think once you start the event, I think you'll see him because he joined as an attendee, I think.
He did.
Can you make him a presenter?
I do not have the ability to do that with this format.
Then send him the link again. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Kutan. Yeah, close this Teams. You'll get a new link because it looks like you got a different link. Can you just close this, please? Yeah, and you will get a new email from Krista. Copy the link and paste it in the browser. Okay? All right? Yeah, you will just get it in a minute. Let me do this. Okay. Yeah, take that link and paste it there and then join the meeting. Okay? Did you get the link from Krista? Okay. Do you have a link in that? Shit. Let me do this. Yeah, try that.
Krista, can you send to Appan and Brandon also as a organizer?
Yes. So just as a reminder, if you've joined us since the last couple minutes, we are waiting till 5:05 to get everybody some time to get in. Feel free to grab a drink, some water, whatever you need, and we will get started here very shortly. All right, apologies everybody for the delay. We are having some technical difficulties on some of the technical side. So please bear with us as we figure out what's going on, and we will start very shortly.
Everything.
This not here.
So, Krista,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I think yeah, we are having some difficulties today with Brandon also. He'll join soon, but let's get started, please. It is what it is.
Okay. Asher, can you please share your presentation again?
Sure.
All right, then we'll Shankar, sir. Are you getting started with the introduction?
Yeah.
All right, well then we will begin the meeting.
Yeah. Are we ready to go?
Yes, sir. Ashik's presentation welcoming is up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Should I make myself the speaker, or should I? Yeah, I forgot now. Shall I go ahead and start?
yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead and start.
Yeah. Hello. Good evening to all of you who's who are on the meeting today. First of all, sorry for the delay in getting this started. We tried to do this as a virtual event, and unfortunately, a couple of speakers are having a bit of a difficulty in joining the meeting. So we'll make this work. But let me get started with this special event today. again, a very warm welcome to all of you. The Indian American International Chamber of Commerce. Just 1 minute, please. So the IAICC is pleased to conduct this virtual event today on STEM-based skills training. We today have a group of wonderful speakers who will be talking to this topic. But by way of welcoming all of you, IAICC is a business platform is a platform for small business and all. We'll talk a bit more about the chamber and its activities. But can you please go ahead and put the agenda next? Ashik?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So why don't you go back to the meeting ground rules, please? Krista, can you go ahead and talk through the ground rules, or is this already done?
A little bit, but we have everybody on now, so I'll just quickly go over them again. So this is a town hall on Microsoft Teams. It functions just a little bit differently than a normal Teams meeting. This session may be recorded for our future reference. We may be putting things out on social media and such, just trying to promote the IAICC and what we're doing here. We're asking for respectful behavior and professionalism within the questions. Questions are allowed through our Q&A function up on the top bar of your screen. You'll see Q&A. You're able to ask a question at any point in time, and we will have a questions portion where we will get to any question that has been entered into that. We do have the chat function open. If you have a comment, that's where we ask for the respectfulness and the professionalism. By the end, we look forward to having an extremely engaging and proactive discussion. Like Shankar sir said, we have some amazing speakers that are lined up, and this is going to be a very interesting and stimulating conversation.
Thank you very much, Krista. So now let's go to the agenda, please. Yeah. So once again, welcome to all of you. Today, we'll go through a quick overview of IAICC activities. We'll be showing a short video that talks about IAICC and what we do. And then we have one of our esteemed members, Ms. Aparna Arvind, who's the CEO of Christopher Lay Consulting. She will talk a little bit about her business, what we like to do.
Sir, you've muted yourself.
Sorry, my mistake. Yeah. So we have Aparna Arvind, who is the CEO of Christopher Lay Consulting. She'll be talking about her business. In each of these virtual events, we like to, or in all of our events, we would like to give our members a chance, to introduce themselves and showcase what they do. So she'll be speaking. After that, we were supposed to have this special presentation by Dr. Kutan, a noted philanthropist, but he is having technical difficulties. For the past half an hour, we have been trying to get him to use his Teams, and then he's been getting some error messages. So we will find a way to bring him online. We'll probably switch the order of the discussions. We may first do the panel discussion and then bring him online. And then we'll also have some comments from Dr. Willie May, who is the VP of Research at Morgan State University. And then we'll have a Q&A. So with that, without any further ado, let me go ahead and ask, Krista to play the IAICC overview video. And I'll make a couple comments after that in terms of this event itself. Please go ahead, Krista.
Let me just share my screen.
Still having a problem.
ఒకసారి ఆర్గనైజర్ ది అది పంపిస్తారా వారికి ఇంటర్నెట్ ప్రాబ్లం ఏదో ఉంది సో ఇప్పుడు
Welcome to the Indian American International Chamber of Commerce. Let me introduce our mission and initiatives. Join us as we explore opportunities for collaboration and growth between the United States and India. Our mission is to promote economic development between the US and India, benefiting all. As a 501c6 tax-exempt organization, we support business leagues and chambers of commerce, ensuring no private shareholder benefits from our earnings. Founded in 1990, IAIC serves as a platform for entrepreneurs and professionals in the US and India. Our members include individuals, small businesses, and global corporations, fostering cooperation and advocacy across industries. IAICC creates collaboration opportunities between India, the US, and globally. We strengthen US-India relations, support small businesses, and nurture entrepreneurship, contributing to the global economy and promoting philanthropy. We offer access to key government and industry leaders, business capital, and educational resources. Our collaboration efforts include networking and inter-country business opportunities, supported by various events and mentoring programs. Our key programs focus on advocacy, business issues, and leadership. We support small and large businesses, promote women in leadership, and encourage entrepreneurship through initiatives like e-mentoring and BizFest workshops. Recent activities include our 30th anniversary National Convention, participation in Prime Minister Modi's US visit, and events on data privacy and workforce training. We continue to engage with government and industry leaders. Our near-term priorities include strengthening regional chapters, increasing membership, and enhancing social media presence. We aim to activate IAICC PAC and host our biannual convention. IAICC invites you to understand and refine our mission, advance US-India collaboration, and leverage political leadership, engage in networking, partnerships, and promote sector-specific ideas to benefit the business community. You can help by becoming a member, engaging with our community, and suggesting event ideas. Provide content for social media, sponsor events, and promote your business through our platform. Your involvement is crucial. Thank you for joining us today. We invite your questions and look forward to your participation in our initiatives. Visit our website at www.iaic.org for more information and to get involved with IAICC.
Fantastic. So I hope you got a quick overview of our activities. We will now invite, before we invite Aparna to speak about her business, again, I wanted to highlight today's topic. It's about peace and prosperity in the US with STEM-based occupations. As we all know, I think later in the panel discussion and all, we'll be talking more about this. We believe that this topic is being discussed at a very timely moment. As we all know, there's a lot of discussion going on right now with multitude of factors. There is supposedly a shortage of STEM-based skills, but at the same time, the technology changes. And through all of this, one thing is for certain, there still seems to be a significant demand for those skills. And as to how we go about accomplishing a workforce training program to enhance, STEM-based skills in the US is going to be a critical part of the discussion today. So with that, I will ask now Aparna to go ahead and talk about a business. Aparna, click the button on your, and then.
Hi, Shankar. Yeah, thanks. I think I'm just going to share screen.
Please go ahead.
As I do that, I just wanted to say good evening, everyone, and thank you, Shankar. Thank you to the IAICC leadership for this opportunity to talk about what I do. My name is Aparna Arvind, and I'm the CEO of Christopher Leah Consulting. We're based in Potomac, Maryland, and I established this business in 2022. So to just give you a sense of context as to why we do what we do, to Shankar's point, we live in an era of transformational and constant change. And change, in fact, is either a buzzword or it's just overly indexed and used frequently. But in the context of the work that I do right now, I see that as organizations are embarking on a lot of change, 88% of business transformations, which is really all about changing how we do things to sort of build that competitive advantage, keep up with technology, and tackle some of those environmental challenges, most transformations actually fail to deliver expected results. And that's from Bain and Company. So that came out last year, and I'd say probably 3 years ago, the percentages vary depending on who's been running the research, between 70 and 88. And so, you have to pause and ask yourself, if so many initiatives are failing, why are they failing, and what can we do about it? Because there's such a lot of time and investment put into it. And so that brings up what we do at Christopher Layer. So we're really all about building capability for transformational change. And that's through the human component of it, by really looking to augment the human potential quotient so that organizations that we work with can comfortably fall into the 12% league that actually gets change right. So that's really our purpose. Why are we talking about this? Because fundamentally human behavior is to resist change, right? I think as evolution has happened over time, we as human beings innately don't want to give in to change. So what's really happening as organizations are sort of moving in head on with lots and lots of transformation. The human element is that you have lots of turnover. You're starting to see a lot of unproductive conflict in the workplace. There's a high level of burnout, disengagement, which all actually fundamentally starts from a lot of silent resistance. There's lack of accountability and the breeding of a very toxic workplace culture. So really recognizing the impact of change on human behavior and mindsets is integral to finding a solution to address this and have greater success with change overall. We know that 94% of business leaders say that agility and collaboration are perhaps, the most critical factors in organizational success. Now, these have nothing to do with technology. These are very much human behavior oriented. So the agility, which is really the ability to respond quickly and to be able to effectively work with one another and collaborate. There's an age-old adage, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go in it together. And I think that's, again, the element of how do we get people to work more effectively within organizations as you embrace change. See that my slide's not changing. So let's talk a little bit about who I am. So my name is Aparna Arvind. I'm essentially a physician that's turned into an executive coach, a keynote speaker, and a change in leadership champion. And the reason why I say I'm a champion is everything I do, day in and day out, is about truly making the case for why change is essential and equipping individuals and leaders to show up and effectively bring everyone else along within those changes. I have over 25 years of experience across healthcare as obviously a clinician and a clinical leader, leadership development work, and change management. And I've coached hundreds of leaders and I've influenced thousands through the keynotes that I do. And I do speak on both national and global stages. And of course, I am a trusted advisor to senior level executives within Fortune 500s, health and life sciences, and tech startups. A big passion of mine is actually mentoring young women who have high potential to pursue STEM careers. So this topic resonates very, very close to my heart. And of course, I love to give back to society. So I am the executive president of a non-profit charitable trust that works to actually fund grassroots organizations to help underprivileged women. My company really focuses on 4 primary outcomes. One is to leverage evidence-backed essentials for enhancing human capability and connection, to promote emotionally intelligent behavior and a workforce that can support a thriving agile culture, to create a culture of great managers who bring out the best in their people. I'm sure you've heard people don't leave great jobs, they leave bad managers, and to really create high-performing teams despite this evolving landscape of change, because we also know that it isn't enough just to have great leaders. At the crux of it, you've got to have great minds coming together, star players coming together to provide great results, have a sense of collective achievement, and a high level of accountability and trust. So when we do our work, we're really looking at the lens of fulfilling these 4 outcomes. I work through 2 big products, and I think I'm certified in lots of different instruments, but these 2 particular ones I think are the champions I deal with. They're evidence-backed, which is Wiley's Everything Disc and the 5 behaviors. And again, evidence-backed. I come from a science background, so it isn't about what's the flashiest and the newest gadget on the block, but it's more about what's tried and tested over time with millions of assessments and data to provide sort of just the evidence and the analytics we need to appeal to people who are looking for that data and proof. So Everything DISC has a robust portfolio as well as the 5 behaviors. DISC working from the individual and broader team perspective, and 5 behaviors really looking at cohesive, tight-knit teams, and again, utilizing assessments and facilitation. So we work at 3 tiers: at the organization level, the teams level, and the individual leader level. At the organization level, we help to, again, our goal is to build capability, which means finding internal systems that require support. So whether it's an internal HR leader or L&D professionals, we help take them through certifications of these tools, both the DISC and 5 behaviors. We also supply facilitation kits and assessments. So this is great from a hiring perspective, from an onboarding perspective, and of course, as a speaker, I like to believe that we do need to talk and raise awareness. So I do, leverage quite a few keynotes for organizations. I've done work with a number of national organizations in healthcare, as well as internationally through Johnson & Johnson. And then we move into the team aspect of it. And again, facilitation through these 2 primary tools of Everything DISC and the 5 behaviors, which really looks at some of those key behaviors and competencies that enable cohesion, enable a better interpersonal communication and dynamic. And again, leveraging assessments to gauge progress. If you don't measure what you're trying to improve, you don't really know where you've started and where you've gotten to. So really, we lean in heavily on those team assessments to look at the impact that we're delivering with our work. And on an individual level, there's the executive coaching and training. A lot of the work that I do really rests on executive onboarding. I always think when you come into a new role, in a new organization, whatever level that is, successfully meeting those best practices is critical. Executive presence and leading change, because again, that's what we need right now from a skill set perspective. And one of the big things that I'm deeply passionate about is burnout. So mental fitness for burnout, and finally, emotional intelligence. Again, what we do is to inspire, provide insight, and empower, because when you turn your people challenges into your competitive advantage, I think the return on investment is huge. So again, thank you for this opportunity.
Fantastic.
Providing support to STEM is what we do. Thanks, Shankar.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aparna. I think that was a wonderful presentation. Okay, so now let me bring. So we're going to, shuffle our agenda a little bit. Our featured speaker, Dr. Kutan, is still fighting the team's fight. So in the meantime, we'll go ahead and bring Daryl Hamlin and Brandon Bryce to talk about to have a panel discussion on STEM-based skills. So let me go ahead and get. Yep. All right. So let me go ahead and introduce Daryl Hamlin to all of you. Daryl Hamlin is he is the founding partner and president and executive director of Emerging Technology Consortium. It is a 501c4 not-for-profit organization, a group of companies and individuals dedicated to ensuring the benefits of technology, right? Ownership and your economy jobs, so that, these benefits reach all the communities. Before starting Emerging Technologies Corporation, Daryl served as the Chief Operating Officer for Logistics Systems, Inc. That's a pretty famous Beltway company here, in case you haven't heard about it, right? And also, he was the Chief Information Officer of the City of Philadelphia and the Metropolitan Area Rapid Transit Authority in Atlanta. He is the retired military officer who served as a CTO for the United States Army Reserves, and he also served as the professor of military science and department chair at Fordham University in New York City. He is a graduate of Norfolk State University with advanced degrees from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, great school, especially for aeronautics, and Fordham University. And he is a certified school business official in the states of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Okay. Clearly, Daryl is very accomplished. I must also tell you that Daryl is very, very passionate about workforce training, and especially providing opportunities for workforce training and preparing folks from marginalized communities with job-ready skills. So that's a little bit about Brandon. Now let me talk to you about with Darren, right? Now let's talk about Brandon. Sorry. Yeah, today has been a bit of a difficult day with everything that's been going on, right? With all the technical difficulties. So Brandon, again, he's very well known here in the Washington metro area. He's a conservative columnist and radio host. He is originally from Detroit, Michigan, and he was also a former op-ed columnist for Mackinac Center for Policy, Detroit News, Washington Times, Ebony, and MSNBC's The Grio, right? He spent a lot of time on the Capitol Hill, in the state government. He's been responsible for various grassroots movements, and he's been a part of various national media platforms. What Brandon specializes is in being a voice that challenges conventional narratives, and encouraging independent thought through legislative dialogue. An advocate for education reform and school choice, Brandon's media presence includes appearance on MSNBC, Fox, CGT in America, Al Jazeera, Newsmax, and a whole bunch of other major news outlets. He has spoken at Princeton University, the American Trust Institute, and the Hamilton Society. And he offers very sharp analyses on policy, governance, and civic engagement. Again, he's a graduate of Harvard University, earned a bachelor's degree in business administration, and he also got a master's in global affairs. I can keep going on and on, but some notable achievements include, he served on the Capitol Hill, under U.S. Speaker, House Speaker Dennis J. Dennis Hastert. He also worked with Governor Chris Christie in New Jersey, and needless to say, he's very accomplished. With that, let's start our panel discussion today. Right? So, Brandon and Daryl, are you ready? Yeah, you guys are on mute. We need to get you off mute.
Got it. I'm ready.
Fantastic. All right. Yeah. So let's first of all set the context, for this topic today, Daryl and Brandon. Why don't we start off with each of your perspectives on what we are arguing as the current STEM skills gap and its impact on the U.S. economy. So, Daryl, why don't you start with that, topic, please?
Sure, Shankar. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Like I said, no more timely issues, especially as we look at economy and transition. But I start and say that the numbers don't lie, and that right now we have 3.5 million jobs that we don't have people to fill. And the reason we don't have people to fill is that I say we have this, I call laissez-faire education system, where here we are still in 2025, and we still don't have the proper guidance and information to the community about what education and what skills do you need to fill these jobs. And so if you look at the last presidential election, it wasn't a topic. If you look back over the years, we have assumed that we have universities and high schools and all this, yet as the change of the economy continues to happen because of technology, right? We're still, as someone rightfully put it, we have an advanced technical economy, but we have an analog workforce system. And so I think our challenge is, how do we make sure that we realign our education system, which is great because look what it's produced. But now we've got to really focus on making sure that it aligns and that we produce graduates with the jobs that we need for the 21st century moving forward.
Very good. Thanks, Darrell. Brandon, I know, you've been very personally involved in a lot of, workforce training initiatives as part of, your activism, your community participation, as well as your employment in various educational institutions. So why don't you specifically talk more about the impact on the U.S. economy? I mean, definitely address the gaps piece and what we see as the economy. And after that, I will chime in with a couple thoughts there myself. So why don't you just take a minute, Brandon, and address this topic, please.
Sure. First of all, Shankar, thank you for having me. Apologize for those technical difficulties, but we got here.
That's okay. You're going to buy me a nice drink, Brandon. My BP went up big time, baby.
But it's always, I'm going to push back because I want your listeners to challenge this conversation. The reality is the state of education sucks. And it sucks because the reality is we have a workforce that in many cases, if you can't afford to pay for quality education, what the country is saying is essentially you're stuck. When you look at the quality of education in our inner city schools, most inner cities, it's no more, the literacy rates are no more than 30 to 35%. But then you're preparing them for an economy that's going to not only be AI based, but if you can't do basic math, reading, writing, and arithmetic, how are you going to get those jobs? And so I agree to an extent with my colleague where he says the jobs are here. The problem is that the current inhabitants, if you don't go to a quality school that your parents can afford, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to do those jobs because they require what? Reading, math, science, and arithmetic. And so this puts the country in a very unique place, which is why you're seeing this turn, Shankar, as we talked about before, where less people are going to college, more people are going to a community college because people want to be educated and want to be employed now. They don't want to wait 4 years. But the other piece to that is when you look at the recidivism rate, colleges are getting applicants coming in the freshman year. The question is, are they graduating or are they even making it to become a sophomore and junior without having to pay for remedial courses?
Yeah. No, I think, I do agree with you that you're hitting at a more fundamental problem, that the education system itself, along with a host of other socioeconomic factors, are impacting this preparedness with respect to STEM-based education. That point is very well taken. But at least can we all agree that, there is a need to make an investment in this country in STEM-based education occupations? We agree on that, right?
Absolutely.
And Shankar, if I could take on that, it's how we make the investment, right?
No, we'll get to that. No, we will get to that later. I just want agreement right now.
Oh, we agree.
No, the reason why I say that is, right, look, this is also coming in at a time where, we all are aware of this, with the change in administration, with the change in posture with respect to legal immigration, immigrating people with specialized skills and so on and so forth, a lot of changes. So, I mean, that is a huge topic and a big, we really don't want to get there. But suffice to say that the more we constrain, immigration related to skills, occupations and all, the need for Americans, meaning let's call them natives, for a lack of a better word, to have more STEM-based occupations, because in the new economy, we still believe that there is still a significant role for that, right? I mean, as much as we say AI is coming and taking our jobs away, with the increased focus on manufacturing in this country, which again has to be advanced manufacturing, which requires people to operate some very complex equipment, and the focus on wanting to be a leader in America, wanting to be a leader in technology compared to perceived rivals like China and others. I think there is no question that there is a significant focus on STEM-based education and occupations, right? So, having put it in perspective, this is where we get to the most, Darrell's most favorite part, which has got to do with what we want to talk about today in terms of what do we do about this, right, Darrell? Correct?
Oh, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
correct. So before I invite you to speak, this is where I'll set the context. I think, clearly the premise is there has to be an investment in STEM-based education occupations, and especially with focus on marginalized communities, which are rural, urban, wherever, right? And then comes the aspect of concrete action. And this is what, Darrell, you've been thinking a lot about what does it take from a policy perspective, meaning the participation of the government from a legislative perspective, and as well as businesses. And those are the topics that we're going to cover right now. So I'm going to ask you to first take a crack at, how can we advocate for STEM-based legislative agenda that provides funding for STEM-related workforce training. I know this is something you've been thinking a lot about. So why don't you go ahead and address that, Darrell?
Yeah, thank you, Shankar. And so I want to go back because we don't want to really separate underserved communities from the American problem, right?
Yes.
Because the American problem today is that we still have basically a liberal arts-based university system, right? And we are still producing huge numbers, more folks with liberal arts diplomas than STEM diplomas. And then when you get into STEM, becomes the real telling number, and that is if the U.S. is third in the world with 800,000 STEM graduates. However, the challenge is only half of them are native-born American citizens. And so there are reasons that has happened, right? Because our universities have gotten used to having that influx of foreign students who pay a premium to go up to American universities. But I think it's more problematic than that. And so I go to the Department of Defense only because the Department of Defense leads the public and private sector in new technologies. And what's interesting now is that for the last 50 years, we've built a model that says, have the Department of Defense go out there and look at all these new technologies, right? And then when one hits, then the investment is there. Well, that model has worked well, but what it has caused is, because we're getting a lot of technical expertise outside the country because someone else is paying for it, right? There hasn't been a focus on investing in Americans. And so we now have an opportunity, because of the requirement to have Americans work in defense, to use that as a foundation. And the last point I'll make about that is that we as Americans have to understand the defense budget. And that is, when you look at the defense budget, which now goes over 1.1 trillion, it only takes 200 billion to pay the troops. The rest of it goes to the defense industrial base, who makes all these new tools and capabilities. Is not just the warfighting capabilities, but all support capabilities. So we got to be knowledgeable about how that money is, what it's spent on, and then more importantly, who in fact does and receives the dollars from the defense industrial base, which is key to this transformation.
Yeah. No, actually, you ended up addressing my next question, Darrell, ahead of time, which is okay. I was going to actually ask you, with all this current increase in budgetary increase for the Department of War, how can that be leveraged for, STEM-based investments? And you are basically making the point that the Department of War could be a big consumer of folks trained in STEM-based skills and are ready for those STEM-based occupations, is the argument that you're making, all right? And we'll come back to the legislative action because we still need to talk about it. So Brandon, I do know that, you have a slightly different perspective on this, right? Beyond, the DoD itself, but what you really talk in terms of what does the industry really need and the curricula, in the universities and everything else being aligned with what the industry needs. So why don't you add your perspective now more in terms of not only the DoD part, but in general, the industry demand, which is sort of an extension to our initial discussion, meaning, how do we see beyond the DoD, where else are the opportunities to bring funding or to, bring this push for STEM-based occupations and, training?
Well, it's interesting. There has to be a relationship between academic institutions, corporate companies, and manufacturing, and then government. But not in the traditional way that government has been there to dictate, but to influence. And I'll give you an example. It is a misnomer when people say that, well, government created 5,000 jobs. That's a lie. Government doesn't create jobs. Government has the influence to assist the private industry in creating jobs and finding talent. And so one part is when you start to look at, what HBCUs are doing now, for those who don't know, historically Black colleges and universities, they're waking up and saying, well, NASA needs Black astronauts. Where can we go to find talent that understands math, which is very important in becoming an astronaut, science, and arithmetic? And so what's happening now is you're having a shift where many of the HBCUs on top of the community colleges are now in play because companies are saying, I don't need to wait 4 years to get a guy who can help build an EV battery. I can wait 2 years. And not only can I wait 2 years, I can wait 1.5 years, and in the 6 months before they graduate, offer them a job where now not only are they working, but they're confirmed to work for me. And so the corporate model in America is changing. Now, how does this impact immigration? To me, the immigration issue of the early 20th century or 20th century is not the issue that we're facing today, because here's the reality. I'll let you in on a little secret on your listeners and viewers. The immigrant community, when you talk about those places like China, like India, where in China they're mandating AI at 6 years old. In India, they're having conversations at 11 years old. And so these are the folks who are actually doing the jobs because they're being exposed to it much early. So here's newsflash. The immigration issue ain't going nowhere, because the reality is, if that were to happen, who's going to operate the hospitals? Who's going to operate the sciences? And so what that is, and we mentioned this on our discussion earlier, is there needs to be an immersion tactic between African Americans, Hispanic Americans, white Americans, with Asian Americans and Indian Americans and more. Because what we're finding is that the brain drain, people want to be in the United States, but the reality is we've got folks who the AI piece is very important, because we're talking about automation. Sure. And the reality is that, Shankar, what it took 10 men to do 20 years ago now takes 1.
I know. Yeah, I know that. Absolutely. That opens up a host of discussion on efficiencies and productivities. But look, I think, a couple important perspectives. I think based on what both of you said, Darren, your argument is let's take advantage of the increase in spending by Department of War or even by the government to use it as a vehicle to promote STEM-based education. And then Brandon, you're saying that, well, the industry itself has its needs and it is finding some very innovative ways to address that need. And I also agree with you. For example, all the major companies, Google and all these companies, actually have abolished a bachelor's degree requirement for science jobs, which is interesting, which also gets into education versus practical skills training too, right?
Wait, hold
STEM-based.
on, Shaker. 20 years ago, when your kid, I'm gonna show you how much the world has changed. 20 years ago, when your kid snuck in the middle of the night to play video games, you punished them. Today, the U.S. Army is using video games to prepare for war.
I agree. No, definitely. Absolutely. All of us are getting rewired. Let's agree. Okay. Look, bottom line though is
make a point here. We've got to, as what's happening in the United States is that there are a small number of universities who are working to influence who gets the dollars in the defense budget, right? And we continue to react. Okay?
And Darren, hold on there. That's where I'm going to take this to your favorite topic, right? Okay. Yeah. So now let's get to the point of beyond the discussion about why do we need these skills and where is the funding coming from, where is the demand. Let's talk about legislative action, which is really something that's near and dear to your heart. So beyond the funding increase in Department of War, as well as other legislation that has gone through, I mean, there have been some in the previous administration. There have been some acts that have been passed, which are meant to promote certain training and so on and so forth. But be that as it may, you've been really looking at this increased spending on defense and elsewhere, especially on AI and technology, as a way to divert funding towards STEM-based education. And you seem to believe that this requires, legislative action. We'll also talk about what business can do about it. So why don't you talk about your project, Darrell? And part of the reason why we are conducting this event today is to actually provide the platform to people like you and Brandon to really use this opportunity to make this a call for action, right? To really make that happen, that legislative action, what needs to be done and how can that be accomplished? Why don't you go ahead, please?
So let me set a couple of fundamentals for you. There's no advocate inside the Department of Defense, although it is the largest STEM employer. There's no one advocating for the workforce piece. That's part of the challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And so when the big defense contractors come in, they ask for money for a plane, a tank, or whatever it is, right? And they get the money for it, but they don't ask for money to train the workforce in order to build it, in order to use it, and in order to maintain it. And so our core argument is that if we understand, and this is how the Israelis built their economy, right? They did their R&D for war. They went into production, and they recognized they had all the tenets from the evolution or from the concept of what it was to production was actually in the military. And so I'm saying that, especially for minority communities, that if we get involved in that, right? And what's interesting is that we actually have the people now from concept to production in the minority community. The challenge is that only the established companies and universities use them. So if you look in this country, we got 650 research universities. Guess how many universities the Department of Defense deals with? 16. And those 16...
It's a very rarefied atmosphere. There's a very stratified...
right.
And
those 16 universities get money in a very... So if you look at the 4 largest contracts, right, which is Los Alamos, right, is a $4 billion a year contract that goes to Texas A&M, the University of California, and Battelle. MIT gets a contract, $2 billion every year for 10 years, right? Johns Hopkins currently has a $2.3 billion contract for the next 10 years. Georgia Tech, $1 billion, right? And so with that, right, not only do they have the ability to teach, but they have the ability to keep the most advanced researchers working on projects, right? And then those folks who work on those projects are the same folks that can then take the research they're doing the day and go apply for an SBIR. Right?
No, understood. Yeah, so we do understand
when we understand that, and we talk about the solution, And so one of the things that we're working on now, and one of the things I commend everyone, and I'm going to put it up in the chat, is that you have to read this article called American Dynamism. What American Dynamism has is that Silicon Valley is now basically looking at the $200 billion that DoD is spending every year and saying, we can do it a lot more efficiently than the current defense industry model, right? And so they are going after that. And so there's a bill called the SPEED Act, which we were made aware of a week or so ago, that is going to go into the defense bill for next year. And so we think this is an opportunity that the original bill says just do procurement workforce reform. We're saying no, connect it so that if you're going to bring a new capability into the Department of Defense, right, we ought to then be planning from the very beginning of how we're going to build it, how we're going to fight it, and how we're going to maintain it, and use that as an opportunity to have the Department of Defense create the synergy between the existing 16 universities, and we're saying now more American universities, which would include minority serving institutions.
Yeah, basically spread the largest far, much further and wider is what you're saying, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely use the SPEED Act. And also, you have also been working on the National Defense Authorization Act, which typically gets authorized in December, trying to find ways to put some money in there. So this is the kind of, at least, working with the policymakers to highlight this problem is what you've been thinking about. Correct?
Yeah, that's what we've been working on. We, in fact, have our first meetings with House Republicans this week, but we want this to be the issue of bipartisanship, because I think that when it's all said and done, we want to move folks from minimum wage jobs to living wage jobs. And the best way you can do that is not only do we identify the careers for people, but we, from pipeline through apprenticeship, internship, put folks in those jobs. And if we can and our goal is start with 500,000 Americans. If we can put 500,000 Americans, right, and include 10%, 20% of that minority, and put them in those jobs, and then put them in debt-free, that has the opportunity to make a dynamic change in this country. And it not only ensures our national readiness, but also provides, and the spillover effect is that it will impact both the public and the private sector.
Sure. So that's from a policy and legislative perspective. Brandon, why don't you talk about it more from, as to how businesses can get involved and community partnerships, because this is something that you have done. I've been a witness to how you tried to bring, businesses that specialize in training to come into community college settings to train people, and even a part of, community activities as well to further this kind of training. So what do you see as being beyond the legislative action, more from a business perspective, and as to how businesses and community action can help?
Shankar, I think that as we see more than most, people are waking up and they're going to start saying, why would I pay for Harvard when I can pay for Cecil College, which is 1/5 the amount, but get the same return on investment with no debt? And when you think about it, it kind of makes a lot of sense, because right now, I think the debt that has been piled up, yes, colleges do have lobbyists. And I think what's happened is that the debt has piled up so tremendous, where now people are recognizing that the greatest scam in this nation has unfortunately become college. Why? Because you pay the average college rate at Georgetown, Harvard, Yale, you're paying $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and yet you're not guaranteed a job. Versus a community college, even the armed services, guarantees you some form of employment when you come out.
I understand your perspective about college becoming really a yoke on people, especially if you go to bigger college with tuition and all. But going back to this topic of, then we also talked about the fact that education has been heavily focused on liberal arts education, so on and so forth. What do you see as being the role of the business plus the community in providing these STEM-based education opportunities, be it in community colleges or wherever? Your thought process regarding that, please.
No. Great point. It's interesting when you talk about the role of businesses. I think what's happening is that businesses, again, they're identifying what their needs are. They're saying, how can I attract talent and not wait 4 years, but wait in 2, or if that. And the other thing, what they're doing, which when you talk about liberal arts education, which is the popular thing to do, why do people major in liberal arts? One, they may like it, but 2, because it's not as difficult and people want to hurry and get out of college. But what the corporate community, I think, is doing is they're saying, how do we start early? And so they're looking at freshman year internships, apprenticeships, co-op opportunities. And why is that popular? Because when you're a college student and your buddy or your roommate has a job and you don't, now you're starting to ask questions. And so what's happening is that more people are going to say, well, instead of majoring in the liberal arts study where I may or may not have a job, my roommate not only has a job, but now they're looking for other talent. And so colleges are getting very strategic. Corporations are getting very strategic on what are their needs. And then the other thing is when you start looking at engineering degrees and you start to look at tech degrees, you're talking about coming out, of college and starting off at $80,000 and $90,000 a year. Shankar, you and I both know we didn't start off at $80,000 and $90,000 a year. But so the demand is driving, which I think should have been from the start, the demand is driving talent. It's not just go to college, find a good job. But now the demand is saying if you are 18, if you're younger and you're able to do this work, there's a great future that we can provide. Very similar, Shankar, to back in the 70s, and Daryl, you probably agree with this, where the factory. You graduated from high school, you got a job in the factory, you was able to take care of your family and have maybe the dog and the kid and the white picket fence, but the factory jobs are gone. Or they're automated to the point where those people are saying, Shankar, if you have walked in a factory lately, they almost look like tech hub centers. A factory is not the same factory that you and I remember 20, 30, and 40 years ago.
So all the more reason.
But that new factory, though, requires, and this is a unique time to remember what happened. I think the best parallel is when the automobile replaced the horse, right? The fear at the time was that all those folks who worked on horses and shoot horses and, were going to go away. We have the same thing now with, as technology changes, right? We need a different type of worker, right? We need a skilled worker to work in the factory. We need more analysts, right? We need more, but the challenge is most of us are not communicating to the public what that new job is. My favorite one, I talk to folks about a bioinformaticist, right? It sounds like a very complicated job, and it is, but how many folks even know what a bioinformaticist is, right? And what the requirements are. So it's interesting that the talent that comes to this country, those countries have made, Korea and Thailand and India, they've made that investment so their students are qualified to come here, right? And what's happened in America, we were so used to having that come in, we don't need to make that investment. Well, now we need to.
Understood.
Because those countries, including India, have now they're producing the talent at home and their economies are growing, right? So it's time to sit back, look at our success and say, okay, what is it that we need to do and what investment do we need to make sure that those Americans who are at home are equipped with the skills for this now ever-changing tech-based economy?
Fantastic. Look, very, very compelling argument. So I will now come to the money question. As you know, I've been talking to you a lot. At the chamber, we are really trying to make this workforce training, STEM-based skills training and everything a big focus. What I would like each one of you to issue a call for action as far as the chamber is concerned by sort of postulating how the chamber can help and as to how membership can help and as to how the community can help. So Daryl, you may want to hit that from a legislative or a training perspective. Brandon, you may want to talk about it from a business perspective. So each of you, please take 30 seconds, and please, why don't you talk about how best the chamber can be an integral part of an activity of this nature, which is actually an investment in America, as you call it, Daryl. Go ahead, please.
Shankar, I'll jump in on this. I think for your listeners, if you're listening tonight, it's important that the world is becoming global. Diversion, integration is extremely important. And we need the chamber and your members to integrate within the Black chamber, within many of the urban school districts, because there's power in plight. And I say that because when you think about the quality of education, not only is the African-American child in Southeast DC learning from someone from India or from Asia, but there's also that individual learning from them, understanding the culture, understanding the opportunities that are here at hand, and understanding the market share. And for many times, I support the opportunity of cultural diversion, and I think it's a way that we can truly grow this great nation. And thank Shankar, I appreciate you for having this conversation, because again, there is no Black America, Indian America, Asian America. We're all Americans.
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
time to come together and start doing business together.
That's fantastic. Daryl, your parting thoughts on this topic, please?
No, and I want to build on that because, we've heard a lot about Project 2025, but the real year is 2040. 2040 is a year that America ceases to be a majority white society. It will be a blended society, right? And we have a responsibility to get engaged with our political leadership and ask very specific questions. If we now know that the defense budget is going to be $1.5 trillion, that's the goal in the next 4 years, right? We ought to be asking our representatives, right? What are we spending on the workforce, right? And I think also, Shankar, I believe that the Indian American community can lead the TRI Caucus in terms of making sure, because if you look at the minority members in Congress, 126 minority members in Congress, 19 minority members in the Senate, what's their legislative agenda to ensure that all these Americans are part of the economy? And then finally, Shankar, what I say is that we have to look at this not as being socially responsible, but as an investment in our future, right?
I know.
Every time we educate a young man and woman and get them a job, right, that's going to be the catalyst to reducing violence. We've got to no longer accept the model that we have right now, where we have put together large groups of unemployed, underemployed folks and put them in the community and give them the basics, when there are jobs out there that can match that. So we have to have a new vision that says, in a global economy, there's enough work, skilled work for everyone, but we got to make the investment to make that happen.
Understood. Very good. Look, I'll tell you what, from our chamber perspective, I think, I'll say something that will be segue to our next short presentation by Dr. Apukutan, who finally managed to join the event. So in terms of how we can, contribute to this, I think, the chamber itself consists of businesses and very smart individuals. I think it's important that we pay attention to this. To your point, Daryl, I call this giving back to make an investment in America. Okay. So, and we can do it in multiple ways by, assisting in, some exciting, training programs that can be launched. And Dr. Kutan will talk about that next. But being also a part of this legislative action, contributing both time and money to, to build a coalition that can help advance this, very important topic, forward beyond talk, going into action. And to that point, in terms of talking about action, now we know we will move on to the featured presentation by Dr. Apukutan. But before we do that, I want to sincerely thank both, Daryl and Brandon for their time today. I can promise you they'll come back again, and we'll be working very closely with them and as well as other leaders to make this happen. Now, with that, we shuffled the agenda, so we're back on
Could I
track.
ask if Dr. May is on, could we let him
Oh,
make
yeah.
his comments first? And
Sure,
I know
definitely
he's got
is.
a
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah,
busy
we can do that. Is Dr. Mays on the call?
We were not able to figure that out. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We're still in talks.
Okay. Yeah. We had multiple people having difficulties. Sorry, Daryl, we could not get him into the meeting today, but we'll invite him again for a featured presentation by him as well, Daryl. Okay?
All right. Okay, I will extend our technical apologies to him.
No issues at all. Now, is Apan on the call? I know our executive chairman, Apan Mir, is on the call. Apan?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. So, will you be, are you ready to introduce Dr. Kuttan, or would you like me to?
Yeah, you can introduce. I'm going to go for a closing statement anyway.
Okay, fantastic. No, thank you so much. Thank you, Apan. Okay. And yeah, first of all, again, I want to draw attention to Mr. Apan Meenan, our executive chairman, who's on the call. Thank you so much for joining today, Apan. So now let me introduce you all to our featured speaker today, Dr. Apukuttan, who fought a game fight, and thanks to Nari from our company, who finally brought him online. So by way of introducing him, Dr. Apukuttan, is a philanthropist and is a founder and chairman of the National Education Foundation, a US and global leader in job-ready and STEM education. Okay, so he's an Indian-American philanthropist. He has advised American presidents and congressional leaders, on creative fundings to schools and academies and school academies. He has advised Indian prime ministers on IT vision for India and other global leaders. He has a storied history in teaching in South America and everything else. He's actually an educator by profession, and then later became a businessman and then decided to contribute a lot of money to good causes. He is recognized as a global visionary and systems expert and a best-selling author of Happy Executive, Nurturing Mind, Body, and Soul. You got to teach me something about that, Dr. Kuttan, okay? And from digital divide to digital opportunity, this is something very important. And he's also creator of cyber learning, and he actually coined the word management by systems, total tennis, and win-win-win innovative concepts. A very interesting tidbit about Dr. Kuttan is he actually bought the world-famous Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy in Florida. If you all have seen the movie, about Venus Williams and Serena Williams that was made the other day, you will see the Nick Bollettieri Academy. He bought it, and then, of course, and he sold it for a tidy profit. Well done, Dr. Kuttan. And then he used the proceeds, to do what he's doing today, which is to educate, kids in STEM-based skills. He founded, he's the founder and chairman of the National Education Foundation. It was founded in 1989. And it's a global nonprofit leader in preparing millions of students and adults, especially the disadvantaged, for high-demand 21st century jobs with 100% grants. Okay, so NEF offers grants to schools, colleges, employers, non-profits, workforce development groups, and other entities, and also to individuals to help prepare millions of students, youth, and adults for high-demand jobs. Dr. Kuttan, definitely very impressive in terms of what you're doing, and what you have done and what you intend to do. It's such an honor to have you here today in our meeting. Why don't you please take about 10 minutes to talk about what you're doing? Are you going to be sharing any slides, Dr. Kuttan? We need to get you off mute. You have to unmute yourself, Dr. Kuttan. Krista, can you unmute him?
It is not letting me unmute him. I've already tried, but
No,
there we go.
He unmuted himself. Very good. Yeah, now we can hear you talk. Go ahead, Dr. Kuttan.
Thank you very much, Shankar. That's a wonderful introduction, which makes me feel so humble. But let me say that, recently we launched 2 projects concerned about, all the federal cuts in CTE and workforce development programs. We launched a program called Get America Job Ready for 1 million students. And, not only giving the courses, but giving a solution. my philosophy as a systems engineer and also someone who wrote a book called Management by Systems, the input into the system are the students or employees we admit, output are the ones who are job ready. So in order to transition that, accomplish that transition process, we give what is called an impact solution, individualized learning of the highest quality, 7,000 courses and 170 certifications. Then M means mentoring. We provide mentors online, so anybody can get answers to their questions right away. And P means performance evaluation. A means accountable badges, which connect them to the employers. And C means customized learning courses and certificate from State University of New York. And T means tech support. So what we found is that when we give the solution, they would really enjoy taking these courses than just giving them the courses. Obviously, once we give a license, they have access to everything, all of these courses, all the certifications.
So why don't you talk about the National Education Foundation? We did circulate your email to all attendees before you joined. So why don't you give a brief overview about the program, Dr. Kutan, and then I would like to have a quick discussion with you on how best we can collaborate with you, the chamber can collaborate with you, to bring this program to, what we are focused on, which is workforce training. So please, if you can talk a little bit about the National Education Foundation, the program itself, that'll be very helpful.
Well, the foundation was launched when I sold the academy. And then after I started helping President Clinton with the STEM program, we started focusing on STEM, and then later the skilling programs, getting people job skills. So the program we started in the US, we just gave 200,000 licenses to the state of New York. The New York's Department of Education wanted this, and we're giving them 90 to 95% matching grant. And the organization generally, we give 90%, so they can come up with 10%, which is about $60. We also launched a program in India, the Make India Great, the same way, to help 1 million Indians to get jobs. To us, it's all about making a difference, because I got an email from a guy in Sydney, Australia. He said, I got 2 engineering degrees, couldn't find a job. Then I took you gave me a scholarship, and I took cybersecurity and project management. And now I'm making over $100,000. If you ever come to Sydney, I want to be the first one to greet you. So to me, everybody should have opportunities in life. And I always tell people, in order to succeed, you need the 4 Ps. You have to have the purpose, you have to have a plan, you have to have passion, very important, and perseverance. Yeah. So we apply the 4 Ps in all our programs. And we think that once we get these 200,000, then I have 800,000 left. That's where I need your help.
Understood. No, definitely. In fact, I really like the way how you're calling this impact solution. For everybody who's on the call, we sent an email from Dr. Kutan, which defines, again, he already talked about it, the impact solution, individualized learning, mentoring, performance evaluation, equitable digital badging, courses and certification and training, and technical support. It's fantastic. Now, how do people apply, and how can they get grants, from your education foundation, Dr. Kutan? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I sent you a link in the email I sent you. So all you have to do, anybody who wants to participate, they just go there and click and put probably about 2 minutes of information about their organization, and then we would then contact them and train the person who is directing the program. It only takes like a few minutes, and then give the licenses, and they're off and running.
So that's fantastic. So again, as a case study, going back to your example with State of New York, for 200,000 people, you're going to be imparting this training. So the 10% that is supposed to be invested, how did that come about? Did the state invest the money, or was there any additional grant money that came in? How
Well,
did you
in New
accomplish
York,
that miracle?
yeah, in New York, there is a program called BOCES,
Mhm.
which is connected to the school districts.
Okay,
The BOCES would provide the 10%,
I
so
see.
that we provide 90%. And in some really poor school district, if they don't have enough money, we will provide 95%.
I see.
Because we don't want to turn anybody down, you know. We want to
Fantastic.
make sure all the kids would have the opportunity. And New York
Oh.
is ranked number 44 in workforce, according to the latest CNBC rankings. So I was telling them that if we work together with State University and Skillsoft, we can help take New York from number 44 to the top 10. That's the goal.
That's
And then we want to
awesome.
go to the other states, you know. Like we're
Fantastic.
talking to Florida, we are talking to California. So
That's
the
great.
idea is that, you know, the way I look at it is when you make a difference in the life of a student, you're not only helping the student, but you're also helping their families and their communities.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Especially the minority communities, women, and the marginalized populations. So they really, you know, I don't know if you read this latest study by McKinsey, which said that it's going to take 100 years for women and minorities to reach equity in the workplace. So
Wow.
I really think that we have to do whatever it takes to help the young people, to give them hope and give them the skills, and then hopefully help them get jobs.
No, fantastic. Well, then, we'll make, one last topic in terms of how best the chamber can collaborate with you. So certainly we would love to partner with you. And, for all the people who are attending this event today, one way to be a part of this movement that Dr. Kutan is spearheading is to apply, for his grants and then find a way to bring in that little bit of investment that is necessary. And from our standpoint, Dr. Kutan, I think that's where the chamber will collaborate with you. We'll challenge, our members as well to make contributions for the 10% of investment so that, we can go into various communities potentially. And along with people like Daryl, Brandon, and others who are very active, in our chamber, we will go ahead and, leverage this wonderful program that you've started, to get these skills into, this training into the hands of very well-deserving people. I mean, the numbers are staggering. I mean, in terms of, the number of courses that are available, there's 7,000 different courses from what I understand. And you're also teaming with Skillsoft, which is a very well-known e-learning provider. So clearly, your program has it has a very good backbone, I must say. And we look forward to collaborating with you, Dr. Kutan.
Right, that's great because 70% of all Fortune 500 companies are using Skillsoft. But they only use the Skillsoft to give the courses, whereas we use the Skillsoft as one of the 6 elements of the solution.
I see. Oh, fantastic. It's only one element of the whole thing, so there's more to this.
Right.
No, that's great. Well, we really hope to turn this talk into action with your help by collaborating with you. And thank you so much for joining
Yeah, I'm sorry
this event today to make a comment.
The delay, but
No, it's all right.
everything works out, you know.
Technology can be your best friend, but it can be your greatest enemy too sometimes,
Right.
in causing aggravation.
Let's
So,
hope the best. And,
so with that, thank you very much. I think in terms of Q&A, we do have some comments, that have been posted. I think some people have put some very interesting comments. So something I heard about is, somebody commented, is there any proposal to think about, topics such as development of a blockchain-based credential wallet that would centralize the management of credentials and so on and so forth. I mean, certainly, proposals like this can be sent to you, Dr. Kutan, I believe, and if it makes sense for it to be a part of the program.
Customize the program for them.
Yeah, very good. And then we also have a question here. Many programs to help diverse communities are being cut, including jobs programs. How do we promote these collaborations? I think, I'm going to answer the question. The answer is right here, by working with people like you who are launching these programs, and as well as making our members and broader business community a part of this conversation. And another question is, where is the momentum in legislative or executive branches to invest in these initiatives, and where is the private industry embracing these opportunities? I do believe both Daryl and Brandon addressed it in the panel discussion by way of, really using the SPEED Act to direct some of the Department of War funding into STEM-based education. And Brandon also made some extensive comments about how the private industry is taking advantage of this training programs in a very innovative way. Okay. Oh boy, we have quite a few more questions here. Again, I see that, Dr. Henry Mack and Dr. Kevin O'Farrell are strong proponents of workforce development. So we will certainly contact them to get their advice, and a lot of very interesting comments. Thank you so much to the people who posted these comments. With that, now I'm going to invite unless any further questions, if so, you have to type them up very quickly. I will ask, our executive chairman, Mr. Appan Menon, to make his vote of thanks and closing comments. Appan,
again,
please take it away.
Thank you all very much for your time. Time is the most important commodity, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, and then nurturing mind, body, and soul is very important. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time today.
You have a great day.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for attending this event. And we had a very nice evening, very informative. And I cannot say who is better at this point in time, because everybody contributed this evening, making the presentation. Aparna made a very nice presentation regarding building the capabilities for individuals, five behaviors and leverage, and executive onboarding. Certain things, I think I will have to listen to her at least 3-4 times to fully understand.
All you got to do is hire her as a consultant, Appan. That's it. Yeah.
The next speaker is, the panel discussion. Panel discussion was really awesome. I'll tell you, this Harold as well as Brandon, they made very good points, how minorities are affected in this environment, what kind of training we can give to minorities to bring them on par with the general population. That's what we need, and that's what the chamber is also for. We look at the population as a whole, and we cannot leave anybody behind. And for your information, we work with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Black American Chamber of Commerce. We have relationship with them, and I think we are going to make a stronger effort now to reach out to them and make sure that we do contribute as a chamber for the upliftment of the minorities and underprivileged class in America. And lastly, Mr. Appukutan, I knew him for a few months now. He was very insistent that I should get him introduced to IAICC. And I was a little reluctant first because I didn't know what exactly he was talking about. It's too complex, for me. But eventually I started understanding what he was saying, and then I believed in him. When I went on his website and got all the information about him, he has done an amazing job as a philanthropist, as well as an advisor to national and world leaders, including Obama, Bush, Clinton, you name a few, and Indian prime ministers, starting from Rajiv Gandhi. And he got the award, California Legislature Award, University of Wisconsin Distinguished Service Award, and so many awards, so and so on. I cannot stop. If I start talking about him, I think I will have to use the entire evening, at least for another hour, talking about him. Thank you so much for doing it. And don't forget, you promised that you will give me a front seat for the US Open next time.
Right. I have been going there for 40 years.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And we will be organizing similar programs in the future. And Shankar has been not only instrumental, he has taken the leadership in organizing these kind of programs. Thank you very much, Shankar. It was
the first thing I told
his,
Shankar is that you have the passion.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And have a nice evening.
Fantastic.
We'll see you again. Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, our goal now is to translate all of this into action, and we'll continue working towards that. With that, thank you all for joining today. Thank you so much for,
Anytime
for
you need
making this
help,
event successful.
remember, mi casa es tu casa, means my house is your house. So feel free to contact us anytime.
You bet. We'll take that offer. Definitely. And of course, we'll take the offer of those front row seats for the US Open too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Let's make it happen.
That's only for me, Shankar.
No. I will find a way to get in there somehow, but you know me. Thank you all, guys. Okay? Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. And stay safe, healthy, and happy.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.